This weapon in particular because it is the first weapon, of course, that is a firearm added to G&B that is not a black powder weapon.
This took me a long fucking time to get, so you better sit down and watch the video.
This air rifle is a whopping 10,000 francs, okay? Yeah, I couldn't get it day one when it dropped. Matter of fact, I had to do a couple of streams where I was just grinding the game in order to get some francs to then buy the air rifle. I honestly could have just showed this thing off in a private server like what I did with the update video, but I really just wanted to own this thing. And every time I talk about it, it seems like people say that it's a bad weapon. So, is it a bad weapon? Well, you came to the wrong video, because I don't know. I just want to buy this thing and use it, and I truly just want to see you guys see some gameplay with the air rifle, so then you can make your decision off of that. Looking through the wiki for this thing, it actually does have a chart that shows the damage fall off for this weapon, because if you're new to this, the longer you use it, the more useless it becomes, unless you go ahead and actually do a reload for the air canister. Okay, wow, you really are new. Are you actually that new? Let's give a quick rundown to how this weapon exactly works, because it's going to be a little bit different than we're used to for a firearm inside of Guts and Black Powder. The air rifle has two loading options. You actually have to reload the pellets, which you can shoot 20 by the way, and you have to have a secondary reload for the air supply. You gotta use the air canister in order to do that. And these are consumables by the way, so of course, you can go to the scammer shop and buy those, so then you don't have an extra reload for the next time you play. But let's say you have an air canister and you're ready to rock and roll. You have a little chart here that shows you your air supply, and when this thing starts to clock down every time you shoot, the damage is gonna start to fall off, and it's not gonna be as beefy as it once was upon the first usage. So you do have to reload the air supply, and boom, it'll go back up, ready to do the amount of damage that it was intended for. The pellets never do run out, which I'm glad. When this thing was first being talked about, there was gonna be a specific amount of pellets you could use with this thing, which, oh my god, I'm so glad they didn't go down that route. I would have definitely had to snort a line of cocaine or inject something into my veins to make me feel good again, because that would have not made me feel good. So don't worry about the pellets, along with every other rifle or weapon inside of this game. You just reload it, because you have the Minecraft inventory. Okay, that pretty much catches you up. I hope that's how this weapon works. Now let's go ahead and get to the gameplay where we unlock this bad boy and then use it.
Guys, you see that? I've earned my last amount of francs. 149 francs to complete 10k. Oh! Is Roscoff time? No, it's not. I'm leaving. What? Account launch experience? Oh, yeah, we're cooked. Yeah, never mind. See ya. I guess I'm done with Roblox. You guys don't understand how long it took me to get 10,000 francs, bro. I've been non-stop grinding this game for like the past week, just trying to build up my francs. I think we got like 8,000 francs in the past couple of days. I just needed to get this weapon, and now we're finally going to get it. It's close shot. I'm going to be paying off your rent for the next couple of years, buddy, because I'm going to slap you 10,000 francs, my guy. I'm about to be broke as shit after this, but it's worth it. Here we go, buying the air. Oh.
Marvel, it uses air to shoot the pellets instead of gunpowder. I even got some canisters.
Thanks. Wow, I did not know Bubbles had voice lines for the air rifle. That was news to me. Am I gonna start this game out without being able to have an air canister, by the way? I just remembered that air canisters are consumables, and I only have 8 francs. I don't even think I could buy an air canister. We're gonna find out, though. Let's go ahead and put on the air rifle. We're gonna have to play infantry to use this air rifle. See how good it really is. I've seen 2-4 use it in different scenarios, which makes the air rifle really good. A lot of people don't like it because, again, this weapon becomes very useless the more you use it. And people don't like that, I guess. I think a lot of people hate on this weapon because they just don't have the thing, and they're just being hypocritical. When they actually do get it, they're gonna be like,
Oh, I actually like this weapon.
I feel like this weapon's gonna get a nickname for bomb popping, because in Catacombs, I've seen 2-4 destroy bombers in Catacombs using this air rifle. You don't have to worry about having a cannon crew on the last part of Catacombs, because one person with the air rifle can pop all the bombers that you see. I'm probably gonna only be using this thing to pop bombers, and we're gonna do a good job at popping all of these bombers, I think anyways. I wouldn't use this thing to take out normal waves of the undead. I wouldn't do like shamblers or runners or zappers. I wouldn't do that. I would primarily use the air rifle to target igniters and bombers, those threats that normally you would need a firearm to get rid of, because otherwise it's dangerous up close, man. We just gotta wait to spawn in here. Is this guy's name Nipple? Okay. Okay, so I went to go take a piss, and I come back to my dead corpse. So I guess I waited too long. I'm not gonna lie, anyone, like, start doom-scrolling on TikTok when you're taking a pee or poo-poo on the toilet? Is it just me? It's whatever. I was watching LeBron James TikTok, so you tell me, did I waste my time? I don't think so. Alright, here we go, about to start a San Sebastian match. This is my first time ever using the air rifle, besides, like, testing it out in a private server and/or in the QA server. Oh my gosh, you don't start with an air canister, which means, I'm not gonna be able... Dude, I gotta save this weapon, man.
man, that is a bummer. I only got 8 frames to thy name. Let me readjust these $1,500 Cartier frames. There we go. That was one, and look at that. The gun's already loaded, ready to go again. What really sucks about this weapon, though, that I think a lot of people don't understand. So normally I play the Navy a lot, and I like to use the Navy pistol, whatever it's called. What is this weapon called? The Navy pistol. It's literally called the Navy pistol. If I see a bomber, I can just aim at it and shoot, because with any of these black powder weapons, you're gonna go through all of the zombies, and you're gonna be able to hit that bomber. With the air rifle, this thing is so weak that I don't think you're gonna be able to shoot a bomber through other zombies. You're probably just gonna hit the shambler, and that's gonna be the damage that you deal. It's not gonna do anything else. So you're gonna have to like single-handedly target these zombies. You gotta just aim for the bomber, and I think that's gonna be a downside to using this weapon 100%. I also want to see if I can shoot these barrels, dude. This will be a good weapon to shoot the barrels. It's a gamble between which one actually blows up. So if you shoot the wrong one, you gotta sit there and reload forever with the black powder weapon. But with the air rifle, you can just click, make this objective go by faster, I'd say. Oh, it is. Yeah, look at that. Wow. Oh, yeah, look at that. I just tried shooting the bomber where the shambler is, and I just killed the shambler first. I just did it there, too. Y'all see that? This guy's asking if I'm okay. No, I'm not okay. I've been sleep deprived for the past couple of days doing this. I'm just gonna respond okay, bro. I really don't know what you're getting at. You are injured? Oh, is he talking about my cosmetics? Bro, I am not trying to roleplay right now. Can you get your queso-looking ass out of here? You can use the air rifle for objectives, by the way. If I could shoot the barrels and shoot a barrel that blew up, you can use this weapon for objective stuff, and that would be like shooting the locks off of the door here, for example. Boop. There we go. Which way is that bomber coming? I see him over there. Oh shit, I had to reload. Oops. Okay. There we go. Y'all handle the zombies. I got the bombers. We got the deal. There we go. That was 2 bombers. That was a 2-for-1 deal right there. Really dropped that. Hey, thanks for the love. God, was that you? I'm not really seeing any more bombers. It's kind of been a while. Oh, what do you know? Here we go. Where the f did you guys come from? This objective's like halfway over already. I thought I wasn't gonna like this weapon because the air pressure when it goes down, this thing's just gonna be a piece of shit. Like, I haven't even noticed that yet. I'm gonna try to shoot it. I've had a bomber's gonna spawn over here. I'll try to snipe some bombers and see if the accuracy is really that shit, because right now I don't have a lot of air pressure. Oh, look at that. That did not pop the bomber. It took 2 shots for that one. It's taking 2 shots now, so you know what? I take everything back. Oh my god, I missed him. I can't pop bombers anymore. If you really want this thing to be you need to resupply the air. Like, you need that air canister. And I'm out of air supply, so I just can't use this thing anymore. Wow, you know what? First impression for using this thing. I like it, dude. I like this air rifle. I'm not going to be using it to clear out, just hordes of zombies, obviously. It's not a crowd control weapon. Let's see how this works in Copenhagen. Copenhagen is bomber central, so let's see how this works. This is the reason why I can't sleep at night, because of this map and their bomber spawns. See, here's another great example of, like, dude, this area is too tight and small that I just don't think the air rifle would be good to, like, just sit here and aim for bombers. I don't think any bombers spawn here, by the way. They might. I just don't. I don't know. I don't play this map enough. Like, if I were to sit right here and just use the air rifle to snipe the bombers, is that even worth it? I feel like just having your melee out to protect the people in the water buckets is more useful here. If I'm joining a GMB match and I'm like, you know what? I want to play a class where I take out hordes and take out barrels and stuff like that with a gun. I don't think my first choice would be the air rifle. I feel like I would just go back to Navyman and use that Navy pistol. I love using that thing, dude. It's so fun. And that gets the job done just fine. I really want to find a catacombs match so then I can use it there. That's the final test I want to do. I really want to play in the last part of catacombs. Okay, guys, so we are here, finally. They are, the gang is currently voting out Outfit 929 for briefing. I don't know what he did, but I'm gonna vote yes because this is a democracy. But we're here. Let's try out this air rifle now. I haven't shot a single air rifle shot this entire time in Catacombs. I wanted to save all of my air pressure for the last part of the map here. And I also have an air canister, so we can refill this bad boy if need be. We're gonna count, okay? We're gonna count how many bombers that I pop. Not what everyone else shoots, just the amount of bombers that I can pop with this air rifle. There we go, that's 1. That's 2. Ooh, can I hit that one? I don't know, there's a zombie blocking it. That's 3. Okay, I'll just help out until I see something. How about that? Because these guys are not doing a very good job. Matter of fact, yeah, there's like 10 people just chilling in the back. Oh, here we
we go. That's 2 bombers. That's 2 for 1 deal. That's another 2 for 1 deal. No. Here we got another bomber. There's another. Oosh, there's another one. I forgot. I already lost count. I'm not gonna lie. There's another one. Oh, shit, I didn't get that one. Got that one. Got that one. Got that one. Oh my god, this thing is goated for taking out bombers on catacombs. Can I hit that one? What are the chances? Shit. There we go. We got that bomber too. Oh, there's a shambler blocking that one. Oh, here we go. Got a wide open shot there. Oh. There we go. Got another bomber. Got another. Dude, this thing is so good at taking out bombers. Oh my gosh. Am I gonna be able? Okay, that guy just got bitch slapped, bro. Oh, too much going on. I might die because no one helps anyone out in this game. From my small amount of time lived on the last part of Catacombs here, we took out, like, what, almost 20 bombers? It felt like it was definitely over 10. I don't think it was 20, but all the bombers we saw we were able to take out, and I only used, like, what, half of my air pressure? I didn't even get a chance to reload with my air canister because it got grabbed right next to a surgeon. That weapon is so goated on this part of the map. It's so nice. You could just single-handedly take out the bombers that you see, and the igniters, of course, because they also emit this glow. This is a perfect example right here. They have a yellowish tint to it, so we could have definitely shot this igniter back here. Okay, in a nutshell though, this weapon is super good for taking out those high-value targets. But there are certain situations in certain maps where I don't think that this weapon would be a good fit, so again, it's going to be very controversial again. But let me know what you guys think, okay? What do y'all have to say? But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for me. My name is GT, and I'm going to go get some sleep now.
'Team Fortress has remained one of the most well-known and popular FPS series for decades at this point, and during all this time, a story has been built that somehow makes sense in the end. So join me as I go over everything you need to know about this universe. Hi everybody, I'm here on a rooftop. You know, I'm just in a chaotic mood, pouring water and dropping loose change on pedestrians, blinding pilots with this magnifying glass, and of course, who can forget about cutting ropes that are lifting grand pianos up multiple stories for some reason. So Team Fortress 2, TF2, whatever you want to call it, surprisingly coherent story. The best way to describe it is as chaotic, and you'll see that in about 30 seconds, I would say. So Team Fortress takes place on an alternate version of Earth with a few major differences. A majority of gameplay occurs in New Mexico, but before I'm actually able to explain why that is, first we gotta take a look at the centuries of history before any modern mercenaries fight each other. Let's start off between the 1500s to the 1800s. Many historical figures do about what they normally do, but they get a little bit wacky with it. Most US presidents in this story slept in your gas leaks, and everyone else took a swig of the silly juice. Like, to give an idea, hats are a sign of wealth with a caste system, and real-world figures like William Prescott would shoot poor people to decrease the ratio of people without hats. Compared to some of the other stuff down the line, this is nothing. First up, let's say hello to Shakespearicles, the strongest writer who's ever lived. Not only was he a literary genius, but he was also just a regular genius, inventing the stage play, the rocket jumper, and America. His downfall comes when he invents the multiple-story building, but not stairs. Up to this point, stairs never existed, and they won't for a very long time. So the only way folks would go up the stories was through rocket jumping, which is the process of jumping as you shoot a rocket from a rocket launcher, propelling yourself upwards. This becomes about as ordinary as skateboarding, where a lot of people know how to do it, but it's really scary when you get into it. So Tony Hawk will be the pioneer of rocket jumping. Then a 200-year gap happens where everything's roughly the same, but also not really. The Revolutionary War for America, the Boston Tea Party, all that stuff happens in America, but George Washington considers himself a failure for never being able to become invisible, and military officer Benedict Arnold commits the crime of refusing to eat soup offered to him. In 1788, a man named Nicholas Crowder is among the first people to leave Britain and head to Australia. Partway though, he changes his mind and moves to the South Pole, then making a deal with a foreign mafia and taking over both poles, somehow gaining mythical powers, thus beginning the horrors of Old Nick, who, unlike Santa, abducts naughty children to make them cool weapons and has that he would eventually sell in a get-rich-quick scheme. So he's like a three-attic twin. Then in 1822, a businessman for a company called Manco named Zechariah Mann loses his wife when she gives birth to triplets. Now the first two he names Redmond and Blutarch, and they grow up to become stupid idiots who are dumb idiots. They're dumb and stupid, and their BMIs are higher than their IQ. Dum-dums. Now the third son is completely different, hyper-intelligent, invented a new form of algebra. At this age, he can already talk. As the father plans to smother him to death, an eagle swoops in and takes him his food. This is a problem at the time. Now Gray is actually going to survive this instance. When dropped off to an eagle nest, he kills the mother eagle along with her babies before crawling back to civilization and using his intellect to grow an empire. 28 years will then pass, and in 1850, Redmond and Blutarch, now working in Manco with Zechariah, convinces him to purchase a shit ton of land in New Mexico. Unfortunately, on account of the brothers having as many brain cells as I have eyelashes, it turns out all of this land is going to end up being a useless desert and nothing more than the gravel capital of the world. And then all of a sudden, Zechariah friggin' dies and stuff. He has unfinished business. He's going to be stuck on Earth forever. Heaven and hell exist in this story, by the way. Now, Zeph is a bit salty about spending his final years with all this useless desert space, so on his will, he gives his friend Barnabas Hale the company of Manco, he gives his assistant Elizabeth the company to watch over, and he gives his two sons the useless land perfectly equally, where the bros are going to keep fighting over it for the rest of their lives, and beginning what will be known as the Gravel Wars. So then they each hire mercenaries to fight over the land indefinitely. The first batch of mercs includes a few folks like Nikola Tesla, and this guy, he looks neat, but most importantly, Abraham Lincoln as the team Pyro. In 1857, Abraham Lincoln finally invents stairs and dies trying in the middle of rocket jumping to his stairs in his lab in the Ford Theater, where John Wilkes Booth, known for his Tower of Hats, also assassinates him, wanting to get the top hat. In my opinion, Lincoln's death is the third most embarrassing way to die, right outside of forgetting to drink water and smoking. This tragedy scares all scholars enough to where they agree to never invent anything ever again, instead opting to learn exclusively astrology. Now by this time, the son of Barnabas Hale, Bilius Hale, has taken his father's position and proceeds to beat the shit out of John Wilkes Booth as he holds him down, letting the public take turns shooting the criminal in a public execution. This is also around the time where the most valuable resource is discovered, something objectively more powerful than gold and oil combined. Australium, named after the country it was founded in. Australium can easily change states of matter and is absurdly valuable. By the start of the 20th century, they already attained an advanced country by our standards. It's basically vibranium, but instead of being given to a mostly peaceful and pretty cool bunch of people, it's given to Australia. Good lord, everyone else is in danger now. Just by being exposed to the materials, the Australians all get giant muscles and majestic facial hair and become obsessed with drinking and fighting. This shit's laced with testosterone. When the Australian will run out, so will everyone's ability. So it's real important that doesn't happen. Otherwise, the Australians become squishy baby humans again. But not really, because like the outback is scary. And even though he's not alive until the mid-1900s, Saxton Hale is the exception. Even though he is Australian, he doesn't lose his abilities. Maybe he fell into a pot of it as a baby. Maybe he worked so hard to give his abs he's a meal. Or maybe it's because he's Saxton freaking Hale. Does it matter? 1890 is when another era occurs. Redmond and Blutarch has been fighting for 40 years at this point with no progress on either side. They both have agreed whoever dies first loses. And as the brothers near old age, Blutarch gets the idea to simply outlive Red and hires Radigan Conacher to make him an immortality machine that runs on liquid Australium, capable of keeping him alive for seemingly until Australium runs out. However, Elizabeth, still working for Manco for some reason, hires Radigan to give Redmond the same machine, thus making the endless battle become super duper endless. This means nothing. The brothers are still at the same point. In 1921, the staircase saga finally comes to an end when American President Franklin D. Roosevelt loses his legs in a rocket jump disaster. And he gets so peeved how not wheelchair accessible America is, he stumbles upon Abraham Lincoln's notes and finally invents the proper staircase. In the 1930s through the mid-1960s, a lot is going to start happening. Now you might notice there's actually a number next to the word Team Fortress. This number is controversially known as a 2. In this case, it implies that there is a second Team Fortress, meaning that chances are there might just be another Team Fortress game. That's what happens in the 1930s. Team Fortress Classic takes place during this time. And guess what? This means nothing. Nothing changes. The war is the same. But it happened. It's around this time that Saxton will finally inherit Manco. He makes hats and weapons and all the to fight, quickly growing to become one of the richest men in America and hunting down all of those ahead of him. In his free time, he's gonna get a girlfriend named Maggie and hunt down any powerful animals he can find, thus making many species go extinct. This creates a lifelong rivalry with his old teacher, Charles Darwin, the inventor of the zoo and the protector of all wildlife, who saves animals from Saxton's Australianness. In this period, so much happens. Mercenaries swap out or die or retire, and all of that. The fight's going, but there still is one more thing worth noting. It's unknown what actually happens to Elizabeth, but the mantle is given to her granddaughter, Helen, more commonly known as the Administrator. She's gonna hire an assistant that goes by Miss Pauling, and just like her grandma, the Administrator is pushing for perfect neutrality, preventing either side from knowing that it's rigged from the start, really prohibiting any sort of advancements. And you can also tell because she's wearing purple, and purple is between red and blue. It's now 1967, and we are finally at TF2. Good old TF2, the game that's been around for nearly 2 decades and hasn't been updated for half of it. On one hand, these characters have a lot of complexity and things going on in their lives, but at the same time, they're doing exactly what the mercs have always been paid to do: fight for red or fight for blue. Also, Apple exists already? Sure. It's very pick and choosy what occurs here. There are 18 mercs in TF2, 9 per side. It's unknown if they're all doppelgangers or why they get killed all the time on camera but continue to respawn. Answering both of these questions, the former, I have no idea. The latter, there's immortality machines. Is it really that hard to believe that there could be like respawns in a controlled area? The point is, as long as these 18 mercs are fighting, nothing will change. They are doing a 9 to 5 where they kill each other. And I actually don't need to introduce all 18 mercs. Due to circumstances I'll get into, Miss Pauling actually develops a significantly stronger relationship with the red team, and as such, when things happen, we spend way more time with the red team, meaning that as a result, we know way more about them, and they're far more prominent. That's not to say that blue team's useless, but roughly 90% of all the team-specific moments go to red. For example, one of the locations the team usually fights in is Twofold, and as a PR stunt, the Administrator hired a filmmaker to market mercenaries on red to justify all of the fighting in the local populace. And this ends up working pretty quickly, also in part because the town water supply has been riddled with lead on account of, well, you know. Oh, by the way, the whole stunt leads to the film guy's death. It's used as a warning to keep everyone, like, not sharing their information. The Administrator is not the type of boss who has casual Fridays. Like, to give an idea, Heavy and Pyro go to her firsthand and ask for weapons, and her first instinct is to blow everybody up. So let's start off with the more simple mercs and work our way up. Starting off with basically who's the mascot man, the Heavy, a Russian man named Misha, whose family got sent to Siberia camps in 1941 when his father was part of the USSR counter-revolutions. After 3 months here, he leads his family out into the Siberian mountains where they hunt bears. Heavy does a bunch of stuff for his folks, yet he still finds time for his own passions and relationships. He gets a PhD in Russian literature, he likes sandwiches, and he especially cares for the team medic. Heavy's gonna remain this stoic and wise, friendly pal, who does in fact have a kill count that reaches the triple digits. Next, there's Sniper, Mick Mundy. He's an Australian and kisses more than 8 people combined. That's an insane drop-off between people. His parents aren't all too jazzed about him being an assassin, with them calling him a crazed gunman. He's honestly just a guy. He's probably the most normal. He just comes in, does his job, and leaves. Scout's real name is Jeremy. He's a Boston boy and the youngest of 8 brothers. Illiterate, egotistical, but at the very least, a flickster. And because of all the time he spent with Miss Pauling, he got a little crushy crush on her. Now, Spy's a French guy who may or may not be the father of Scout. Actually, he is. It's pretty much confirmed. Red Spy specifically is the dad of both Scouts, actually. He did both of the Scouts' moms last night. How embarrassing. Now, here's a fun little fact. In Meet the Spy, the Red Spy is disguised before the Blue Sky shot between the eyes. He's acting as Scout, pretending to cry as the Red Spy got between his mom's thighs. Means arms are heavy. Slather myself in spaghetti. He's just shocked because someone actually, like, got pictures of him doing someone's mom. That's a normal thing in this field of work. Ludwig, aka Mr. Medic, has no doctor, never went to school, and had his medical license revoked when a patient's skeleton went missing, but at least he has a pigeon named Archimedes. In a room full of psychopaths, Medic shines upon them and will prioritize exclusively his own goals. I think the engineer is the most vague. Red and blue NGs are both related. Red NG, Del Conacher, has 11 PhDs, has innovated the immortality machines, and out of everyone, I think he's the one not showing his cards, in part due to how powerful his knowledge is compared to everyone else, even Medic. Travis Finnegan de Groot, better known as Demoman, is a Scottish hyper-alcoholic cyclops. He comes from a rich family who associate success with the amount of jobs. Demo, for example, earns 7 figures 3 jobs, and his father worked 26 at one point. It's tradition for the Beavers to be up for adoption when young. He was only taken in when he grew up his adoptive parents and the Loch Ness Monster at the same time. One Halloween, he's offered a job to clean a library for a single meal by a wizard, yes, a wizard, named Erasmus, a 6,000-year-old figure. The only rule Demo has to follow is not open any of the books. So Demo opens the book, now he has a haunted eye socket. Whatever, dude. Holy hot dogs, what the frick frack snick snack do I say about Soldier? Very stupid, master of war, master of rocket jumping, drinks so much lead water Flint, Michigan would have a drought. He's a lawyer, a patriot, and probably sleeps in a running washing machine. He wanted to fight in World War II, got rejected by every military branch, went to Poland himself, and went on a massive rampage until he heard about the war ending in 1949. Reminder, World War II ends in 1945. He very likely removed a small country's worth of men from the population. And then there's Pyro. I don't know. They're my favorite. Pyro and Heavy are my favorites to play. They make me feel like the best player in the whole wide world. We don't know anything about Pyro. They're just happy to be here. I like all these characters, though. I sure am glad, despite the millions of deaths suffered by the player base, I'm glad a respawn machine prohibits this whole rat thing from actually happening. Maybe it, like, makes the mercs forget that they died or something. I'm not so sure. What I do know is that the administrator and Miss Pauling do not want either side being friendly with each other, nor do they want progress on Red or Blue's end. Again, they wear purple. Like at one point, Red Demo and Blue Soldier become best friends and seemingly are gonna refuse to kill each other and maybe talk about their jobs and maybe even talk about their contracts. The possibility of this alone makes the administrator force upon them a friendship divorce. But Saxton, on the other hand, he's the cool boss in the office. His office desk is a grill. That's badass. Saxton invented the internet and buys all of Europe. He found the Yeti species, captured them, and then built a Yeti park exclusively to hunt the Yetis. And then when the Yetis go extinct, he makes that a battlefield. I mean, what do I say? He's Saxton Hale. For 4 to 6 years, the Gravel Wars will happen with these teams. A lot is gonna happen. And even though they have an objective chronological order of events, it hardly matters. Plus, I forgot to write down the order, so I'm just gonna go in whatever feels right. Outside of the Meet the Team videos, the mercenaries do a couple of things to appease the public. One Christmas, the Blue Scout pile drives an old lady or something, and when they're on trial, the Blue Soldier causes so much of a ruckus that both of them end up with Elf and Malsantha respectively. Just to be safe, Blue Spy comes with them. While giving a little boy a haircut, Old Nick returns. I probably shouldn't do that anymore. Old Nick tries to abduct little Jack because he can, and in self-defense, Jack moseys on over and offers him a lovely scarf that makes him fall asleep in excitement. Throughout the Halloween, some more stuff happens. Erasmus will show up and cause a lot of problems, mostly over refusing to do the dishes, and because someone brought a vegetable dip with hummus of all things. That charcuterie board sucks if it has hummus as the best dip. Each year, new things will invade, like Zechariah will show up, the horseless headless horseman, and Demoman's other eye comes back to hunt as this monster monoculus. I understand why you drink now, Demoman. Fortunately, at least one time, Erasmus gets arrested because when returning to an expo, he discovers that Soldier made their home a raccoon sanctuary with an abundance of sour cream. They're roommates, by the way. I just forgot to add that. They lived with each other. Erasmus threatens to kill him, but Soldier took the come back from the dead stronger pills, and then an officer arrests him for this entire fiasco. In 1971, there's expiration date. Red gets the weekend off after successfully stealing a briefcase. When the team finds out that every time they used engineers' teleporters, the devices that they've been using for up to 4 years at this point, have riddled all of them with tumors. And they confirm this through the bread. I don't know how Heavy has never noticed this. So while trying to do something nice, Spy comes up with the idea to accomplish everyone's last wishes, but Scout does some shenanigans and nearly ruins the whole thing. But in actuality, he has a final wish to go on a date with Miss Pauling. After a montage, Scout basically fails all the teachings, so he just gives it the good old college try, even though I'm convinced Scout probably didn't even graduate high school. He sounds the briefcase missing alarm to summon Miss Pauling and wastes her yearly day off. Then Angie and Medic discover, hey, those aren't tumors, those are just the green virus. and only bread can get the green. So as long as no one teleported any bread and never does it again, there will be no problems. But off screen, after getting a bucket as his last wish, Soldier was told at the start, and I quote, teleport as much bread as you would like. So for the past 70 straight hours, Soldier has just been teleporting bread. So the bread just becomes a giant monster for over 4 years. This monster was roaming around Europe. I don't even want to think about what he's done if the military rejected him. In every branch, fighting happens, bing bong, explosion, death. Also, every game of TF2 was canon. You can't prove otherwise. And then it happens. Redman and Blutarch rent the Alamo and propose a truce. It turns out Gray was the one to call him there, taking out his brothers once and for all in one fell swoop, and the gravel wars are over with no more paychecks and with both teams' bosses out of the picture. All mercenaries are about to go home and pack up and leave, but then Miss Pauling reveals, oh wait, guys, Saxon got a new job for you, just go beat up the machines. Throwing everyone back into work to protect Manco facilities from Grayman and his machines. And they're only getting paid because robots run on money somehow. I feel like regular paper would be easier, but hey, that's fine. Heavy like sandwiches. In this man versus machine period, there's still more stuff going on despite both teams working together now. Medic figures out how to revive people within a 5-second rule, and the Man Brothers are back as ghosts. Now technically Blutarch won the gravel wars by 7 seconds, but since neither of them can do the paperwork, they gotta go to Soldier, who, might I remind you, is a lawyer, where he reveals the winner is whoever can go to an afterlife last. So the brothers decide they're gonna send each other to hell, and the gravel wars are back on for a little bit. Wow, cool. Despite everything changing, nothing has changed. This period of man versus machine content takes us through a majority of 1972, and nothing would change till it didn't not change. Gray McMahon takes a step back and changes his approach to this new war. He surrenders and then challenges Saxton to the Manco Challenge, a fight that states if the challenger wins, they get the entire company. Gray declares Saxton will fight the current company CEO, and knowing that Saxton will only spare babies, Gray promoted his daughter to the CEO, making Saxton instantly forfeit and instantly ending the challenge, throwing away Manco. But could you imagine if Saxton just ignored it and just threw that child out the window like a discus? This is the same story where people died over hats. It's not impossible. The tragic failure on Hale's part results in all mercs losing their job to AI. The administrator tells all of her employees to scatter and go into hiding, and this only becomes an issue for 3 of the characters. Soldier needs to move out of his castle, and somehow his scouts helping him load his stuff. Soldier breaks both of Scout's arms. Now, right before Spy leaves, Scout asks for help attaining his savings at the Two-Fort Bank, and this turns out to be exclusively Tom Jones merch, thinking that his death will significantly increase the value of it. And this ends up leading to stupid bickering and the Two-Fort mayor trapping the two in the bank, only letting them out if they agree to go to jail. Now, Scout, I understand falling for this, but how did Spy not at least attempt to leave? Was he setting a good example? Did he want father-son time? They've been co-workers for 4 years. Scout seems like a good friend to see a couple times a month, but not really living with him, contrary to popular belief. Not all too interested in getting arrested in New Mexico. Now it's late 1972 to early 1973, probably. I don't know. I wasn't there. 6 months have passed since the team split, and the administrator has a plan in the main comic run. During all this time, Australian has been quickly diminishing, and there's not much left on the planet. Yet she somehow managed to net 89,000 tons of it. So Miss Pauling is tasked to find as many mercs as possible and find any remaining Australian. So she looks for the Redcliff and starts with anyone who stayed in the Southwest. Soldier's currently doing celebrity house tours, starting at Tom Jones's house, which leads to his death in the process. This hardly matters. Also, Marasmus is Tom's current roommate, but not anymore. Next, they find a depressed CEO Pyro at this place called Frontier Engineering, where his passion for arson is reignited by his pals. And Demo, he's just a sad guy. He jumps back in pretty instantly. Next up, Spy and Scout still in jail. Miss Pauling and Pyro go to burn books as Gray's on their trail, using all the resources and his own immortality machine to stop them, while Demo and Soldier go to court trying to free their big old buds. They failed. So now there's a public execution, and before anything happens, Miss Pauling goes in and goes, nuh-uh, instantly convincing the town to give up. Thank you, Leadwater, for poisoning the town and saving the day. Then the team splits up to look for Heavy and Sniper. Pyro, Soldier, and Scout all go to Siberia, while Pauling, Demo, and Spy go to Australia. The Siberia team finds Amelia Earhart's place of plane crash, finding her remains in a hot dog suit, and after smothering themselves in honey, they attract baby bears. This is when Heavy shows up and gives that bear a stern talking to. This crew goes over to Heavy's house, and Jana, I think that's how you say her name, I'm gonna say it like that, please don't yell at me. One of Heavy's sisters gets a boyfriend, and his name is Soldier. Ooh. That's not Soldier's name, his name's actually Mr. Jane Doe. Oh, and then the family decides to go back to America because Siberia's cold. And also cold. Right as this happens, the Australia team makes it to Australia, where they see firsthand how no Australium is a bummer for the populace, and the gang spends about a week in Australia. But while that is happening, Saxon finds his ex working for Charles Darwin, where Charles offers to get Manco back in exchange for some Australian to keep the endangered animals alive. And then the other team makes it to Australia. Scout and Heavy are tasked with going to Ayr Rock, where they stumble upon Saxon and Maggie. This will be important. Everyone else needs to go to New Zealand, as supposedly all the last supply is over there. Only problem is that New Zealand decided to go underwater. The entire city is at the bottom of the ocean because one scientist said so. He said the world was gonna end. It didn't. To counteract this, Gray sends out a new team that's actually Team Fortress Classic, alongside the medic, who does not give a sloppy string slackleberry shoot about needing to hunt his old friends. And as this happens, Soldier, Jana, and Spy sneak into the Australian Navy and kindly ask to borrow a submarine. Miss Pauling and Demo find Sniper's house, where Sniper nearly takes him out, and he found out he's adopted. But this means Sniper's all good with going to New Zealand, and the whole gang goes on down to the underwater. Don't ask where Pyro was during this time. There was no explanation. In New Zealand, the crew discovers Sniper's real parents, revealing that he's not a true Australian, and that explains why Australium never gave him superpowers, and his real name is Mundy Mundy. I've heard Slurpees with better names. Also, it turns out Sniper's parents they're kind of dicks. His dad wasted all the Australium to paint test rockets to space, while his mom takes the last one. And to rub like 14 pounds of salt into Sniper's big old flesh wound, his dad steals the submarine, never to be seen again, and then the classic mercenaries shoot Sniper, killing him instantly. When the classic team returns with the red team, Gray decides to do a final Manco facility invasion where he gets the administrator's remaining Australium, until Classic Heavy thinks to himself, hey, I want to be immortal. Why am I making this shriveled racing man immortal? So he rips out Gray's immortality machine, leaving him to perish and taking him out of the story as Gray's machines are about to do their invasion. Soldier and Jana are being interrogated by Classic Pyro until Jana removes her hand to blow up Classic Pyro. Pauling and Spy are about to take some cyanide until Heavy and Scout show up. Woohoo! Just kidding, is Classic Spy and Demo. Then Soldier and Jana appear and show Classic Spy how to turn his head around like an owl, but Jana punches Pauling so hard that kinetic energy knocks the Classic Demo Man to the ground, where the Spy chokes him with handcuffs. Across the base, Medic revives Sniper as he has a nice moment realizing how much his adopted parents love him, once and for all accepting his job not as a crazed gunman, but as an assassin. And when he wakes up, Classic Heavy just starts yelling, he sucks, he's a jerk, I hate him, I hope he shrivels. The red team skedaddles, but nearly gets all their blood removed from the blood-sucking robots. But it's fine, because Demo Man, having an alcoholic withdrawal, has taught his vital organs to produce alcohol, meaning that it is running through his veins and poisons the robots. The final fight begins. Scout, Heavy, Saxon, and Maggie land from a plane with the team weapons. Pyro melts Classic Scout and Classic Soldier. Spy and Sniper get Classic Engie and Classic Sniper. And on their way back, they stumble onto a near-death Scout. Spy disguises himself as Tom Jones and announces how proud he is of his son. Going down this path, Scout goes out smiling, finally knowing once and for all, his father was Tom Jones, but actually Spy. He doesn't die, by the way. This is TF2, the good guys live forever. In heaven, God and Scout are hope dogs. They have foosball tables, they send Tom Jones to super heaven, and Scout gets to revive himself. Back on the battlefield, all the fighting is fighting, ending off with a heavy versus heavy fight. It's mostly going toward Red Heavy's win, until Classic Heavy puts on Gray's Australian device and stains Medic's perfectly good coat with strawberry jam. Now, Medic was a German who was very likely in World War II, so he's going straight to hell. But during this time, Medic stole the souls of either the Classic or Red mercenaries, meaning that the devil owns only a ninth of his souls. But in exchange for 2 more of those souls, he gets brought back for 50 years. Now, Medic reveals that he stuffed baboon uteruses in Classic Heavy, which baffles him so much it provides Red Heavy with enough time to pull out Gray's immortality machine, which drains the rest of the life force. It's all over, Red wins, Australium is gone forever. And then it's revealed during all of this adventure, Engineer's been with the Administrator, rationing the remaining Australium that they have and keeping her deceased for upwards of several hours. She only has about 6 months to live, and she just goes, let's just call, I don't give a hoot. And she goes, all or nothing, uses the rest of it at once, gives her 1 hour of youth. And oh man, the finale comment, the finale comment of this is crazy. It doesn't exist. There was no finale. See, Valve, the creators of TF2, are very bad at finishing games. They like making good games, but don't really like counting to 3. The last update for TF2 was 2017. That's over 6 years ago. Finish the comic! 1 issue left, but no! We don't get to see it! We don't get to see anything! So here's what I would guess. I think Saxton would punch Charles Darwin in the face and refuse Manco. I think Elizabeth and Helen could be the same person, and she was gonna destroy the Manco legacy, which is why the story never escalates through the Gravel Wars. And I think all of the mercs would have found some new jobs. Some together, some doing their own things, and in the end, it doesn't matter. TF2 mostly lives on via the community, who, you know, they got some good things like TF2 Classic, and then they got some bad eggs, like every community does. Treat others how you want to be treated, guys. Don't be bucket first, be good people. Well, that's all, folks. Look at this sad statistic and feel guilty. Here's a GamerSubs code. Hey, Tyler, there's someone behind you. I love doing that joke. I hope that freaks someone out. Really, I don't have much else to add. All I could say is, oh, I don't know. Maybe. Oh, I don't know. Finish the comic!
Do you know which of the Team Fortress mercs is canonically named Jane? Or which 2 are officially father and son? Or which one has drunk so much alcohol that normal food makes his body think that it's been poisoned? Actually, you can probably guess that last one pretty easily. Let's dive into the real lives of the Team Fortress mercenaries, as revealed throughout the officially published comic strips, official trading cards, and other Valve-published lore. Let's meet the real team. So firstly, some important context on what the story of Team Fortress 2 even is. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, as by the developer's own admission, TF2's story is more convoluted than Half-Life or even Portals. But it is important to cover a few things so we can better understand just who these 9 people are and give some context to the important life events that we're going to talk about in this video. The blue team and the red team are actually 2 separate groups of mercenaries, both working for a company called TF Industries, unbeknownst to each other, and employed to fight each other repeatedly at the demands of the mysterious administrator, the same person whose voice we heard whilst playing the game. Despite the blue and red teams being canonically different people, the majority of Team Fortress story only focuses on one team and only ever really fleshes out the personalities and life of one of each merc. So for the sake of this video, we won't be talking about both scouts or both soldiers, etc. Just the scout and the soldier, and so on. At a critical point in the story, the company that supplies the weapons to TF Industries and our mercs, Manco, gets taken over and set upon by the robots of man vs. machine mode, ultimately leading to TF Industries being abandoned by the administrator, and the end of the fighting between the blue and the red mercs. The majority of the story from this point on then features Miss Pauling, the administrator's assistant, reuniting one set of our mercs, hunting down the robots and their creator, and fighting the Team Fortress Classic version of themselves and a horde of killer robots, in what ends in a massive cliffhanger and I've been waiting over 5 years to read the conclusion of. Now, as I said, that is an extremely short version, and I've purposely left out some key details and character names in an attempt to reduce confusion to anyone who might not be familiar with the story at all. But of course, if anyone is interested in a more comprehensive story overview or a video in the same style as this one, focusing on the non-player characters of the TF2 universe, then please do let me know, and if there's enough interest, I would love to make those videos too. So with all of that out of the way, let's profile our mercs, starting with those that we know the least about, and moving through to the juicier and juicier details. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the merc that we know the least about is of course Pyro. We don't know their name, heck, we don't even know their gender. With that said, Pyro is referred to several times as he, him, his, or sir in the comics, including by Miss Pauling, who is second in command at TF Industries, the company who employed Pyro in the first place, so if anyone knows Pyro's true identity, then it's going to be Pauling. But on the flip side, Soldier does at one point suggest that he had always had a suspicion that Pyro was a woman. And it's also worth noting that in the comics, we meet all 9 of the Team Fortress Classic mercs, and only one of them is ostensibly female. Pyro. And on the TF2 official website, official trading card, and the back of the NECA action figure box, Pyro's profile reads, he's a fearsome, inscrutable, on-fire Frankenstein of a man, if he even is a man. Of course, Pyro's lack of clear identity is, ironically, part of Pyro's identity, and it seems unlikely that there will ever be any straight answers or smoking guns confirming who or what is underneath the mask. But believe it or not, that's not actually where Pyro's story ends in the comic. And Miss Pauling reuniting everyone, Pyro is found sitting as CEO at a successful company called Frontier Engineering, and is considered to be personally responsible for the company having a record quarter. Another interesting tidbit is the fact that Pyro genuinely appears to see the world in Pyrovision, as originally shown in the Meet the Pyro short, with multiple panels throughout the comics showing us the world through Pyro's eyes in the same bubblegum rainbow wonderland point of view. Next up is Heavy Weapons Guy. From the comics, we know that his name is Mikhail, or Misha as a nickname. Whilst Heavy is of course outwardly Russian, we learn from the comics that he's from Siberia, and his action figure box tells us specifically the Zhugzhou Mountains. Heavy loves his miniguns, and he's named them all, Sasha being his main one, Natasha, of course, being his best-known other gun, but also Svetlana, Oksana, and Sheila. But despite being attached to his metal killing machines, he also shows a lot of compassion for his family. He lives with his mum and 3 sisters, Bronislava, Diana, and Zana, a lot of which we'll hear about a bit later. Engineer. Real name, Del Connor, from the town of BK, Texas. Whilst many of our mercs might appear clever, but mostly insane, Engineer is the most genuinely intelligent, having no fewer than 11 PhDs. Whilst his personal history is never explored in great detail throughout the comics, his family are amongst the most important to the main storyline. We all know about Australian from the in-game universe, the extremely rare metal used to decorate sought-after expensive weapons. The Engineer's grandfather, Radigan Conacher, built a series of machines that use Australium as fuel to extend a person's life. And Del, our engineer, has continued that work, iterating and improving on the design during his time working for the administrator. Throughout the story of the comics, obtaining Australium and using it to extend life is the main plot point, motivating the lead antagonist as well as the other main non-player characters. If it wasn't for Engineer's grandfather, and in the present-day period of the comics, Engineer himself, this motivation wouldn't even exist. So whilst our other mercs definitely get more screen time, Engineer is the most important merc when it comes to the underlying story. The Sniper. On the back of his NECA action figure, we find out that Sniper's real name is Mick Mundy. However, we find out in the course of the comics that his birth name is actually Mundy, in the same style as his parents' names Bill Bell and Lana. And perhaps most surprisingly of all, he's actually from New Zealand. which in the Team Fortress universe is a sunken underwater world covered in a glass dome. With that said, Sniper is shown to have been blasted out of underwater New Zealand on a rocket whilst just a young baby, adopted by Australians and brought up in Australia. This polling also addresses Sniper's adopted parents as Mr. and Mrs. Mundy, suggesting that Sniper's birth name being Mundy and adoptive surname being Mundy, making his name technically Mundy Mundy, is maybe just a happy little coincidence. The Spy. It goes without saying that we don't know a lot about Spy. Arguably more so than Pyro, a lack of identity is part of Spy's character. His name is unknown, and whilst of course being a spy he could be pretending to be French, his France origin is confirmed on the website and on the back of his action figure box, along with his ability to speak French, Spanish, and as with Engineer, his personal history isn't much expanded on in the comics, but we do see a couple of interesting moments reinforcing his in-game character, such as a mention of his suit costing $10,000, and his teeth apparently housing a series of miniature items such as a full roast dinner. Spy often hints about having a more than friendly relationship with Scout's mother. There's Scout-specific voice lines, the art on the side of the ambassador is suggested to show an enemy's mum, and there's straight-up photographs of them together in the Meet the Spy short. But in the comics, it is pretty much said directly. Spy is Scout's father. Spy, believing the Scout to be on the verge of death, disguises himself as Welsh pop legend Tom Jones, who we see elsewhere in the comics that Scout is a big fan of. And Spy admits to having dropped a sex bomb in Scout's mother. He even then directly calls Scout son. The Scout. During the epic reveal, where we learn that Spy is Scout's dad, we also learn two more things about Scout. He is 26 or 27 years old, and his name is Jeremy. We elsewhere learn that Scout is from Boston, as his accent and multiple item names suggest. He's the youngest of 8 brothers, which is what ultimately led him to be able to run as fast as he can. Scout is frequently shown as being not particularly intelligent, including lacking basic reading skills. He's a huge fan of Tom Jones, who we already know that Spy disguises himself as when revealing himself to be Scout's dad, and Scout is a huge collector of Tom Jones memorabilia, as well as having a misspelt Tom Jones tattoo on his chest. Scout is a hopeless romantic, the administrator's assistant, Miss Pauling, constantly trying and failing to move, and is apparently completely undeterred, or perhaps unaware, of her polite and consistent rejections. The Medic, from Stuttgart, Germany. During a brief time where the medic is dead and negotiating a deal with the devil, we find out that his name is Mr. Ludwig. That's right, Mr., not Doctor. This is confirmed in multiple places that Medic apparently has no formal medical training. Instead, he just takes a fascination in experimenting with living things. This experimenting even involves somehow separating the very souls out of the other 8 mercs, apparently without their knowledge. And this is what ultimately allows him to successfully trick the devil and come back to life after being very thoroughly killed by the Team Fortress Classic Heavy. Medic appears to have no real moral leaning towards nor against our mercs, and in fact, through much of the story, he's actually working against the rest of the team. But similarly, he does bring Sniper back from the dead by replacing his organs with those of various exotic animals. He brings a bunch of the other mercs back from the dead by simply squishing any old blood back inside them, and he does ultimately avenge his own murder by having Heavy kill the Team Fortress Classic Heavy after having experimented on him by somehow surgically implanting the moon uterus inside of him. The Demoman. Full name, Tavish Finnegan de Groot. Place of origin, Ullapool, Scotland. Demoman is one of the more fleshed out characters in the TF2 comic series, with his background not just explored a little during the main series, but also featuring heavily in the Halloween event spin-offs. We know how Demoman lost his eye. At 7 years old on Halloween night, he goes to work for none other than Erasmus, the wizard who haunts Ghostfall during in-game events. Whilst working there that night, Demoman is spoken to by the magical Abominomicon, the book, which is also a reoccurring Halloween in-game character. Demo is tricked into opening the book, gets his eye haunted by the trickster spirit of the magical book, and thus Monoculus is formed. That's right, Monoculus is Demoman's haunted, missing eye. However, during the course of the mainline comics, Medic reveals that he has grown Demoman's eye back no fewer than 8 times, but something haunted always happens, leading them to conclude that it's the eye socket which is haunted, not the eye itself. On his trading card, which released all the way back in 2008, it stated that a failed plan to blow up the Loch Ness Monster at the age of 6 led to the death of his natural parents. However, on the official website, this sentence is changed to say it caused the death of his original adoptive parents, and this page doesn't appear to have been updated since at least 2011. However, the box for his 2013 NECA action figure, which for all the other Mercs usually has exactly the same or similar text as the trading card on the official website, makes no mention of this at all, suggesting a possible retcon to the parenticide, accidental or otherwise. And indeed, in the comics, whilst Demoman's dad is confirmed to be dead, we do meet his mum several times, who could, of course, plausibly be an adoptive mother. Well, a second adopted mother, if the official website text is to be taken as fact. But either way, we do learn that he lives with his mum and that working jobs and making money is apparently very important to her. And even though they live in a massive futuristic mansion and Demoman earns over $5 million a year, she still thinks he'll be working harder. And of course, we can't forget Demoman's other dear loving relationship, alcohol. At one point in the comics, Demo is fed normal food and kept off alcohol for a period of time, which leads his body to start reacting like it's being poisoned. But fear not, because his consistent drinking from an apparently young age enabled his body to react appropriately, with his organs seemingly under their own steam, converting his stomach into a distillery and fermenting bone marrow, thus giving him a high enough blood alcohol level to start poisoning the robots who are attacking him. It wouldn't be Team Fortress without amazing nuggets of trivia like that. The Soldier. Throughout the comics, Soldier is regularly referred to as Mr. Jane Doe. For those unaware, Jane Doe is the name typically given to an unidentified female corpse. Now, obviously, Soldier is not an unidentified female corpse, but he is shown throughout the comics to be consistently the stupidest of our mercenaries, leaving it completely open to possibility that he has somehow mistaken Jane Doe as being his own name, even though it might not. Despite this outward stupidity, Soldier shows an impressive ability to acquire jobs, and at various points is apparently a sergeant, a barrister, a priest in at least one state, a qualified exorcist in Guam, a public defender, a top guy of celebrity homes, and winner of a nose-picking contest. Soldier has a more than business relationship with more characters than any of the other Mercs. Firstly is the Wizard Marasmus, who Soldier is revealed to have been roommates with, in a series of bizarre stunts, including inadvertently getting Marasmus's castle turned into a raccoon sanctuary. Marasmus ends up moving in with the real Tom Jones, only for Soldier to show up on the aforementioned celebrity homes tour and kill Tom Jones, framing Marasmus in the process. Soldier also meets and seemingly instantly falls in love with one of Hell's sisters, Zana. Soldier and Zana's escapades form one of the main subplots throughout comics 3 through 6, and presumably 7 should it ever be released. They start by immediately making love as soon as they meet, separating from the main squad and infiltrating an enemy base, breaking out of interrogation, apparently get engaged, get naked, covered head to toe in honey, and bare-knuckle fight a horde of killer robots. Zana intimidates Miss Pauling for ogling Soldier, and, rather fittingly, the last panel we see them in together is alongside Pauling, Saxton Hale and his partner Maggie, the rest of the Mercs except for Engineer, and a recently delivered baby boom. So there we are, those are our Mercs. But as I said at the start, there's plenty of other characters, like the Administrator, Miss Pauling, Saxton Hale and his whole story arc, as well as the entire Man family, whose namesake is Manco, we hardly touched on at all. So if you think you'd like another Meet the Real episode, focusing on the side characters, then please do let me know in the comments below. Whilst you're there, why not tell me what your favourite factoid is about our 9 Mercs? But
become one of the most influential games of all time. Everyone's either heard of TF2 or sunk a decent amount of time into it. You might have seen a meme or a bit of gameplay. You might have even played a game with TF2's fingerprints all over it. Like any team-based shooter in the last decade. Yet as they come and go, TF2 persists. Why is that? Is it the exciting gameplay? The sleek and appealing visual style? The constant support from Valve? No, but seriously, what I think makes TF2 stand head and shoulders above the rest of its genre is its character. Other team-based shooters will give you characters with deep and complex motivations as to why they're fighting, intricate character webs that try to tie together a massive world with just a few representatives. TF2 is about 9 people who vaguely tolerate each other when not outright insulting one another.
Scotland is not a real country. You are an Englishman with a dress.
I am owning you, you fat, bald, fatty, fat.
This is Scout. Rainbows make me cry.
You got a busted bad boy with a penchant for doing more damage with his mouth than with his gun. Bo Australian who's just as likely to turn your brains into wallpaper as he is to piss on you. And a black Scottish Cyclops who can 1-2 combo you with explosive grenades into Claymore. All of these characters have endeared themselves to the general public to the point that you might forget the fact that each and every one of them is a violent sociopath who has killed before and will kill again. Yeah, I feel like the babification of these men kind of takes away from the fact that they are contract killers, and in some cases deliver a fate worse than death. So I got to thinking, which TF2 character has committed the most war crimes? Now, the label of a war crime sounds really heavy, but trust me, when we get into the specifics, these people are earning them like candy. So to lay some groundwork, we're going to go off the definition of war crimes as defined by the Red Cross. See, if we go into exactly which crime each merc commits, it's gonna be kinda difficult. For instance, it's illegal in war to shoot an enemy who's shown themselves to be of no threat without a way to defend themselves. At the end of every round of TF2, the opposing team is made to be big crybabies who you can mow down at your leisure. It's also a big no-no to fire on medical personnel, and that would just make pocketing soldiers and heavies even harder to deal with. So I can't feasibly measure each war crime in terms of action. What about the only other thing that has as much personality as our beloved mercenaries? Their weaponry! In the rules of war outlined by the Red Cross, there are 11 distinct classes of weaponry that are not allowed in war. We'll go over them one at a time and judge their loadouts based on what weapons they possess that would be counted as a war crime. First up is serrated weapons. Serrated weapons, like a modified bayonet, cause undue suffering to someone unlucky enough to be stabbed with them, and as such, they're banned from conventional warfare. Now, the exact definition on what counts as serrated is a little hard, but I feel confident in my ability to use my eyes that I can tell you which is which. First person to break the rule is Pyro with a sharpened volcano fragment. Yes, to TF2 fans, you must be asking how the volcano fragment is considered a crime in any other realm other than game design. Well, those ridges along the blade mean that whatever little more damage is done is more than necessary. After that, we skip a whole 3 classes as medic comes next. The stock bonesaw and amputator are both by nature serrated. They are sawzall. The use of such equipment is already contentious, but for this rule, it's even worse. Snipers, tribesmen, shivs, and spies, Black Rose, both fail in this category, which means that medic leads the pack with 2, with Pyro, Sniper, and Spy all tied for second. That is, except for the secret bonus war crime, thanks to the all-classes item, Pretty Blade. Thanks to Disgaea, everyone here is getting an extra 20 years at least added to their prison sentences. After that is barbed weapons. While you normally associate barbs with barbed wire, the definition of barbs is simply an additional piece of metal that assists in the tearing of flesh. So for something like, say, Scout's Boston Basher, that would be a barbed bat, seeing as those spikes aren't meant for hitting home runs. As well, the Sun on a Stick has a bunch of nasty spikes for filling someone with more holes than a casual pub team's forward push. Soldier and Demo both earn 1 for the Pain Train, which they share between each other. If a giant railroad spike wasn't enough to punch a hole in a human body, the bunch of jagged, bent nails would definitely send the right message. Pyro has the obvious one of the Extinguisher. It's very literally just an axe with barbed wire wrapped around it, but I'm willing to stretch the definition of barbed for the back scratcher, given the fact that raking with a rake will happen whether you mean it to or not. For Heavy, I really went back and forth on if the Warrior's Spirit counted, since it's bear claws that will definitely tear up the body, but they're not metal. Ultimately, I gave it to him since it's not like he's gonna do much with those 20 years of freedom anyway. He was also gonna get it anyway for the eviction notice being a pair of spiked brass knuckles. finally, NG's Southern Hospitality has incredibly useless spikes on the side that have no chance of ever hitting somebody. But it shows up in the kill icon, so it counts. The support classes escape crime-free. We can actually eliminate the next 3 categories as they revolve around expanding ammunition, explosive rounds, and poison. For all the weapons in the game, none of those descriptions fit. Demo's pipe bombs aren't round, they're lobbed projectiles, so they land in a whole different group altogether. What is illegal, however, is a weapon meant to inflame your wounds. What exactly this means in terms of TF2 is a little hard to define, but I narrowed it down to the few items that make your opponent take more damage. First is beloved returning madman Pyro and his gas passer. This dented gas can is actually breaking the laws of warfare by making your opponent take more damage from Pyro's flamethrower. Also, if Pyro wasn't in the inflaming category, I'd have been really sad. I mean, come on, it's not like there's a fire category coming out. However, the king of making things go from bad to worse is Sniper. The yellow belt master of Jarate flings it with reckless abandon, making you more vulnerable and waterlogged with another man's piss. Not only does the eponymously titled weapon utilize this stuff, but the rifle the Sydney Sleeper will coat you in it from long range. So now both Pyro and Sniper are getting up there in terms of violations of human rights. Chemical warfare is up next. Putting somebody through the periodic table is a big no-no, and there are only 2 mercenaries who this applies to. Pyro's getting called back into the principal's office again as a repeat offender, as the gas of the gas passer is a chemical and illegal. However, that doesn't hold a candle to the real master of chemical warfare. See, the medic uses a variety of chemicals in order to utilize his strongest maneuver, the Uber charge. He'd be lucky if Meet the Medic was all that existed to explain the origins of Uber charge, but sadly, NATO leaked the original work in progress Meet the Medic, where we see the concoction that keeps these junkies on the battlefield. So whatever, Uber charge is breaking a few international laws. It's not like he's got a bunch of weapons tied to it, right? How many? So that means that every single one of Medic's weapons tied to Uber is in some way a war crime. That means every Medigun, the Uber Saw, the Vita Saw, Overdose, and Amputator are all grave breaches of international law. Because of that, Medic shoots way past everyone else, making them look less like this, and more like this. If you thought the last section might have been a bit of targeted bullying, wait till you hear about this one. Anti-personnel landmines, you already know where this is going, are outlawed in combat. Being a bomb meant specifically to injure or kill a person is a no-go. Now, is there any class you can think of that uses bombs to kill people in particular? Why, yes I can! I think there is one! Scout! Yes, in the official definition of anti-personnel landmines, they include a description that talks about bombs meant to disperse broken glass along with shrapnel. Broken glass that the Rap Assassin launches when it hits an opponent with a bow! Now, who would have thought that little speedster could have snuck in a shot in a section meant for Demo Man? Yeah, so you can probably guess Demo Man is kind of the star of this part of the list, as sticky bombs by their nature are anti-personnel landmines. Considering they also damage buildings, though, you might be tempted to give them a break, but no such luck. The primary purpose of these things is to turn people into chunks. That means the Sticky Bomb Launcher, Scottish Resistance, and Quickie Bomb Launcher all land our Demo Man in hot water. You may also be asking about the Sticky Jumper, but that actually can't deal damage to enemies, so it's not anti-personnel. Use it all you want, Demo! There are 3 other examples I want to go over for the sake of being a pedantic jerk, however. The Iron Bomber is a primary grenade launcher meant to have a low-roll, limited-range bomb. So it fires bombs that don't explode very far and stay still when planted. Kind of like a mine. The TF2 Wiki even refers to the strategy as such, so I don't feel bad about this one. And why not? The bottles Demo Man has can break and would leave glass. My list, my war crimes. Maybe don't try and glass people in a war zone next time. Next up is nuclear armaments. Obviously, it's not very kosher to try to nuke people, especially with a weapon you can hold in your hands without protective gear. Not like they're gonna live long enough to feel the effects anyway. So you may be asking what nuclear weapons there are in TF2, and the answer is one that I kinda had to play with. So we know for a fact that the Gorgebot weapons like the Calmangler and Thompson are indeed nuclear weapons, but they seem to be the only ones that mention that fact. However, because of the weapon's special property that they disintegrate whatever they kill, I'm willing to extend the definition that any weapon that causes a disintegration is a nuclear weapon. With that information, please let me know, what class do you think has the most nuclear arms? Maybe the hysteric and crazed soldier? The man of science medic? Pyro because, well, it would probably be Pyro? Or what about...
Yo, what's up?
That's right, Scout has 6 unique, or I suppose sort of unique, weapons. Let me explain. So in terms of the disintegrators, that includes Scout's Capper and the Beat Saber, as well as all three of his drinks, the Bonk, Criticola, and Mad Milk, are either drinks that have been irradiated or made with radiation. And if you know Scout's loadout, you know that the Soda Popper is a force of nature that's had a can of Criticola taped to it, making it, by extension, a radioactive weapon. Soldier you'd expect to be dumb enough to have a nuclear weapon only has two in the form of the Cow Mangler and Righteous Bison. Pyro is in a similar boat where the very innocuously named Man Melter ends up melting men, as well as the Phlogistinator. Fans of WM1 Pyro are in shambles by this news. Engineer, like I said, has the Thompson and shares Scout's Capper.
Oh, also, the short circuit. I definitely include the short circuit, and I'm recording this on the Tuesday before the video goes up because I forgot about the short circuit that could disintegrate enemies. Definitely didn't forget about that. Well, love you all.
And the Sniper has a variation on the Machina, the Shooting Star. Next is weapons that were made at home, and you have no idea how hard it was to judge this category. So if the rules of war were meant to help regulate combat in order to stop people from tearing each other apart like feral raccoons fighting over a wounded squirrel, a weapon that hasn't been approved by any world government, much less military company, is a big problem. But you see, it's not that easy. Basically, the problem I ran into is with weapons like the Back Scratcher, Neon Annihilator, and Hippocrates Oath. Obviously, these aren't weapons. They're things being used as weapons. But does that count as a homemade weapon? Does the misuse of a common object mean it's being remade into a weapon? I spent literal hours mulling over if it does or does not count. The decision I came to was that yes, if the weapon was never intended to be used as a weapon of war, then it's something that would be illegal. That being said, starting off with Scout, we have the modified weapon of the Soda Popper. This one is easy because it's taking a weapon that is totally fine and just taping a can of illegal soda to it. Then you have to go to his melee weapons for the rest. The mackerel is just a fish wrapped up in a newspaper. Not only is it an illegal weapon, but it's also wasting food. The candy cane and the rap assassin are both fun, best of holiday accessories that the Scout is using to beat people to death. And trust me, the fact that the candy cane cost health packs made me almost not count it, but this was during like hour 3 of me figuring out if it was going to be counted or not, so it's going in. Soldier gets lumped in as well, as the pain train is just a stick with a railroad spike and some nails put into it. And in a rare in-lore homemade weapon, the publicity blurb on the Beggar's Bazooka says that Soldier made it himself. The Demo Man not only has Soldier's pain train, but his bottles were never meant for combat, no matter what you hear from any given bar in Scotland. His other weapons are even more interesting, though, as the Nessie's 9-iron is a piece of sporting equipment that just so happens to be the proper length necessary for a bludgeoning. Finally, the Charge and Targe is the only shield that isn't a shield. The other ones Demo can use were all designed to be shields. The Charge and Targent, while part of the best demo loadout, isn't a real shield, just a ship wheel that he strapped to his arm. The Heavy made his weapon at home in the most metal way possible by ripping the paws off a bear and strapping them to his own to make the warrior's spirit. Before you ask, by the way, since we're at him, you're probably asking about NG's buildings. He says that they're designed by him, built by him, and by that logic, wouldn't that make them homemade? Well, no, because the buildings are simply his creation that he brings to the battlefield. He got his buildings officially licensed by Manco since they can be built from the PDA. That's like saying the man who invented the AK-47 wouldn't be allowed to use it in battle. However, Medic... Like I said before, Medic invented Uber, and you'd think I could make the same excuse for Medic that I just made for NG, right? Well, not quite. Since we see Medic make his Medigun, we have conclusive proof that he made it at home. By extension, you could probably say that all Mediguns and all Uber weapons we mentioned before are in the same boat as well. And on top of that, the bust I mentioned earlier, and Medic has already had the most banned weapons so far. It's almost a little silly to mention anybody else after that display, but we're still talking about it. The Razorback is a shield that has a car battery attached to it. The Cozy Camper is just his backpack from his first day of school, and the Girardi is most certainly homemade. On top of that, Spy has one item from home. That being the bit of ice hanging on his rearview mirrors from his car that now he's aligning spines with. And that's all the classes! I mean, there's one other one, but like, it's not even a big deal. Like, who even plays it? Not me, obviously. Like, I probably don't have like 0 hours put into that character. So let's just move right along. And, okay, you got me. I skipped Pyro. So this is a case like the Beggar's Bazooka where we have in-universe confirmation that the Pyro uses a homemade flamethrower. That's bad enough on its own, but what's worse is that his other flamethrowers are variations on the original flamethrower, and that means they're modifications of the original homemade flamethrower. In total, for his primaries alone, the flamethrower, degreaser, and backburner are all automatically big no-nos. But that's not all! Nostromo's Napalmer is a double whammy. Not only does it fire napalm as the name suggests, but the weapon itself is based on a flamethrower from Aliens, which in and of itself was homemade! Even the rainblower! The rainblower is a weapon Pyro made in his imagination! The Flog and Dragon's Fury only escaped this category by virtue of looking too well made for Pyro to have made them himself! But that's not all! Heavens no! On top of his primaries, he has the Detonator, which is a modified flare gun, and his melee weapons. Oh god, his melee weapons! Extinguisher, an axe wrapped in barbed wire, power jack, a car battery on a stick, neon annihilator, back scratcher, postal punisher, all stuff we just picked up off the ground! The lollipop isn't even real! So, yeah, Pyro is making a massive problem for himself because he just won't let people make weapons for him. At least now, after all this funky weapon shenanigans, we can get on to the final... Oh my god, the new TF2 update! Oh my god, there it is! They haven't updated this game in half a decade, but it's finally here! Finally, let me see the changes! Okay, oh yeah, they made the sharpened volcano fragment deal 100% more damage to spies cloaked as other spies. Nice, nice! Oh, they made the lock and load make every demo man who uses it have a limp so they actually need that crutch! Oh, thank god, oh yeah! Oh god, oh man, oh god, oh man, oh god, oh man, oh man. There are a few different weapons that are affected by this change. For instance, the Hulong heater creates a ring of fire around the heavy. Gotta keep those pesky spies away. Kind of like the particular weapon used by the soldier. Cow Mangler can inflict afterburn, which means it's incendiary and therefore counts as a fire weapon. Kind of like the flame-throwing weapon like the Huntsman, who can have its arrows set on fire with the torches in the environment, and
Okay, fine, let's just talk about Pyro.
So it would be kind of rude to go over all the Pyro weapons with this band effects. If you were to make a build into these parameters, Pyro would not have a primary. You only have the shotguns, jetpack, and gas patch to use as secondaries, which is both redundant and insulting. And worst of all, you would lose access to the sharpened volcano fragment. I don't want to live in a world where that's happening. So just like the last category, Pyro has 12 weapons that break the rules of warfare. Giving him more war crimes in this one category than some mercs have overall. Fitting, seeing as they're a psychopath. I mean, not like the other psychopaths, like a psychopath with slightly more Let's just get on to the next part. So while the weapons have been thoroughly combed through, there is one more section of the TF2-universe that I feel like has ripe potential for crime. The comics! And no, I'm not talking about the fact that they're unfinished, which is a crime in and of itself. Valve, stop making technology that people outlaw within 20 minutes of getting and make a game! Any game! That doesn't count to you, know it! Thankfully, someone else has taken a break from blowing bubbles with their spit long enough to think of the same idea, and Sir Reginald III on Reddit has gone through painstaking detail to count the crimes across the comic, and I'll present them to you now. Scout has been known to stalk and make advances on women, including girls on the track team for a high school he did not go to, while being over 18, and they were under 18. This was supposed to be a fun video. Let's watch him die again. He's also guilty in assisting of the murder of Santa Claus, which it's kind of funny to hold this one murder to higher scrutiny than the other ones, but I want a PS5, and if Saint Nick can't get me one because he's 6 feet under, I'm gonna raise some hell about it! And he also mentions that the mad milk isn't milk, and it could count as sexual assault, but I refuse to think that Scout is hawking love custard at his opponents. What could possibly be in the restock closets to refill that thing? Soldier! Genocide! Wait, genocide? How? He's one guy! Following World War II, Soldier went to Germany to eliminate Nazi scum. But it seems he wasn't ever told that not every single German person was a Nazi and began indiscriminately murdering civilians. Since he was exclusively targeting the Germans, this falls under the purview of genocide. On top of that, you got him breaking and entering into Tom Jones' house, as well as the murder of Tom Jones for murdering Tom Jones. He also assisted in the gangland assassination of Father Christmas. Pyro! If you can believe it, the Pyro may have set something on fire. That's mainly down to them having the diagnosis of pyromaniac, meaning they would have had to have set something on fire in order to get that distinction. Demo Man doesn't have too much, actually. First you have a downpour for public intoxication. Same with Heavy. As long as you don't count escaping the Russian gulag he was trapped in and murdering all the guards, thus becoming an enemy of the state of Russia. For the time that the game is taking place in, though, I'm pretty sure it's a net positive. However, being a Russian at all does mean that history's grumpiest grandpa, John McCarthy, was labeled with a signature move, McCarthyism. landing him at least 5 years in jail. Engineer is the most boring class to play, so of course he has the most boring crime of corporate espionage. Just stole some weapons from Blue Man. Oh, boo-hoo, boring. Moving on. Medic. Well, we don't even have to go into the comments for this one, as Medic admits to losing his medical license and is therefore illegally practicing medicine. I also guess that negates the point from the beginning where you can't fire on the medic. Gun him down all you want. He's also profiting off stolen goods. He's in possession of every other merc sold. And speaking of those black market goods, like his immortal human soul, his wide variety of animal parts were no doubt gotten through illegal means. He's also guilty of kidnapping, as he took a random thug and turned him into a pumpkin. Somehow the pumpkin part is totally above board, but the kidnapping is disgusting. Sniper is a lot of things, but a crazed gunman is not one of them. He's an assassin. And he probably shouldn't have admitted that, since that's a big crime to kill people for money. He's also creating homemade booze, since he slips Demoman his own homemade moonshine. If anyone else Sniper is making in those jars, I wouldn't drink it regardless. Speaking of that, dousing someone with your own piss no doubt falls under indecent exposure, as well as public indecency. It's also no wonder that his parents are disappointed. He's wanted for attempted murder rather than flat-out murder, as he doesn't succeed in killing Miss Bowling and Devil when they come to find him. Finally is Spy, another contract killer, who not only kills for money but also in self-defense when he gets sent to prison. Stealing intelligence from both Red and Blue Team, threatens to murder a judge, launders money, and one of the key items the disguise kit allows him to impersonate anybody and steal their identities. This includes Tom Jones, and as a result, Tom Jones, or rather, statement, would have grounds for the misuse of his image. Now it's time for the main event! Which of these men will die in prison? Starting off the lowest and going up, last place with only 6 crimes is Heavy. He gets the minimum sentencing for a war crime, which is 20 years. That means he's got a 120-year sentencing ahead of him. After him is Andrew with 8 crimes, landing him 160 years. After him is inexplicably Spy with only 10 crimes and a clean 200 years. Makes sense, his job is to not get caught, and he wasn't caught. Equally surprising is Soldier with only 14 crimes and 280 years in prison. The next 3 have 15, 16, and 17 crimes each, with Demoman, Scout, and Sniper each getting 300, 320, and 340 years in jail respectively. Then with a shattering 25 crimes is Medic, who manages to get sent away for the next 500 years. Finally, with a massive 35 war crimes is Pyro, who will go to jail for the next 700 years. Counting up all that jail time and assuming they don't get the death penalty, the Mercs will be in jail for a combined 2,920 years. Or, as some of you may have noted, more time that has passed since the birth of Jesus Christ.
Spy is not a combat class. He is a stealth class, and he typically dies when being spotted, so you'll want to avoid that as much as possible. But no matter what, there will be times where you do find yourself in direct combat with another player, and it's good to know what you can do. Like remembering that Spy has multiple options actually. While the gun is the most obvious solution to combat situations, it's not your only option. In fact, you have 3 primary ones: shoot, trick stab, or run. The first 2 involve actually trying to kill them, the third is purely for survival.
Oh yeah, there's also button knifing where you finish someone off by smacking in the front with your knife.
However, you don't simply have to choose one for every engagement you end up in. In fact, this is where the power of mix-ups comes into play, as suddenly switching from one option to another mid-fight can be used to bait enemy players or throw them off. Making them believe that you're trying to run away or gun them down often results in them running right at you, which can leave them open to a trick stab. The reverse is also true. If they're expecting a trick stab, they'll try to keep their distance, which is good for making space to try gun them down or to get a head start on the escape. Sometimes just hitting enough shots with your revolver can scare people into backing off and letting you get away. I can't hit my shots! Yeah, well, that's just a you problem. I get that revolver aim can be really finicky, especially from the random spread you get from firing too fast, but this is straight up something you just need to get good at. On that note, remember that you have the ability to see enemy health, and you can use that information to take advantageous fights against weakened players, especially since you're typically already sneaking around the places they retreat to because that's kind of the thing you do as the night class. If you choose to escape, a very powerful thing that I've talked about before are cloak illusions. Simply put, it's the act of moving one way when starting your cloak, then changing direction once it's complete to throw the enemy off. When you do change direction, turn to look at the person chasing you to check that it's actually working. Always keep note of the last they saw of you. If you get bumped or shot and your cloak blinks, then change direction again if you think they saw it. Try and keep track of them or making them lose track of you. Successfully misleading players can cause them to waste a lot of time looking for you. Be wary of the information they have to go off. This also applies to trick stabs. They're obviously quite flashy, but they're also a good way to clutch a fight or take someone out with you. However, trick stabs can often fall apart very quickly if your target sees it coming. Again, they're most effective if they don't even know you're about to attempt one. Choosing which of the three options to take is not some binary guide. A lot of it will come up to your own knowledge and intuition. The more you play and mess it up, the better you'll get at making these decisions. And remember that you can mix them up or quickly switch between them. With these concepts in mind, I'm going to be going over combat with each of the 9 classes, though not just fighting against them, but how to work with them on your team. While Spy can feel like a solo unit a lot of the time, being wary of your teammates can be incredibly powerful. You aren't just getting lots of kills, you're creating an opening for your team to leave more destruction in your wake. You are causing problems. On purpose. Now, it needs to be said that what I say here cannot account for every possible situation. Watching my videos does not automatically make you a good spy. You need to put into practice and experience. My videos don't just bypass that. But this video will help you understand the matchups much better. Scouts like to move a lot. Good scout players will use their high speed to make themselves hard to hit, often juking and changing direction constantly. However, this is offset by their low health, as they can go down relatively fast if you actually do hit them. The best place to fight a scout is in a smaller room, as it heavily restricts their range of movement, making it much easier to hit them, as they have less options since they can't just no-clip. He's in the walls. He's in the goddamn wall! Like the scout, you should also try to move erratically to make him miss his shots. You may not be as fast, but that means smaller spaces aren't as restrictive on your movement. Now, being the only class that can outrun you, cloak illusions are very important when escaping them, and open spaces are much better to go when doing so, as it gives you a massive range of movement, making it hard for them to narrow down your location. It's also worth noting that, like with Afterburn and other debuffs, being cloaked halves the duration of their Mad Milk, allowing you to get rid of it and lose them. Though, when you do actually sneak up behind a scout for a normal backstab, it can be a bit awkward since even though they don't know you're there, they're still faster than you because they overdosed on energy drinks. When this happens, just follow the scout and stay directly behind them. Once they get into combat, scouts have a tendency to walk backwards within the first few seconds. If you stay behind them like so, they'll walk straight into your knife. You and the scout are both flankers. You get behind the enemy lines to cause problems from unexpected angles. When it